Bene's Bloody Bits.
Here we go. We're on a Saturday. My name's Jason Bene, and this is more like sex comedy bits as opposed to bloody bits. But we have somebody new who's never been on the channel. His name is Donny Broussard. He's a filmmaker. But Donny, tell everybody about you. What's your background? What are you doing, in life?
I'm a college professor, and I teach film, acting, visual arts, and I run the Digital Media Resource Center for the College of the Arts at the University of Louisiana. And I make not just bloody horror films and sex comedies and, things like that. Feature films.
So you're busy. You've been doing that for years.
Yeah, probably about 30 years. Yeah.
So you were a filmmaker, but also talk about a website that you used to own that people might or might not have heard of it.
Yeah, I used to own a website called killerfilm.com. We were pretty decent size. We covered pretty much every genre and went to lots of festivals and conventions and interviewed. Jason did most of the interviewing, celebrities, and things like that. And then I guess studios decided that they could own their own websites, and advertising went away, and our overhead, we weren't making much money, but our overhead for hosting with that many people hitting the site was pretty expensive. And with no ad dollars coming in, we decided to shut down. And then a few weeks before we shut down, we were hacked. We're still hacked by some site in Russia.
Of course, it's the Russians.
Yeah, Killer Film is still up with our logo and everything, but now it's like a gambling site. So we checked in to try and get them to stop, but who's going to stop them out in Russia? So.
We got a comment here. Somebody thinks you look like Brad Henderson, who used to work for Vinegar Syndrome, who now works for TerraVision. Do you know who that is?
No, but okay. I buy a lot of records from TerraVision and a lot of Blu-rays from Vinegar.
So just so people know, when I got started in this whole journalism thing, it was about 2009. And somehow Donny and I became Facebook friends. I think at that time I was a Facebook friend collector, meaning if you were in the industry or whatever, I just kind of grabbed people because I wanted to network and talk. And you sent me a DM because you saw that I was posting a lot of pictures either with celebrities, or I was doing, at the time, my Netflix account was connected to Facebook, so I could do reviews that would show up in my timeline. So long story short, you reached out and said, are you a fan or are you a journalist? And I said, I'm a fan. And you were like, do you want to be a journalist? And we kind of hit the ground running. And that you can go to a website called Wayback Machine and put in Killer Film, and you can find a lot of the articles are still there.
Really?
Yeah, I found about 20 of my interviews. And I didn't know about the website until about a year ago. Wayback Machine, you put in Killer Film, and literally it screen grabbed. There was our Comic-Con coverage. That was some late night classics. It was weird. It was like stepping into a time machine. So not all of it's gone. But
I've been trying to get a hold of all that stuff. The site that hacked this has all our content. And I can't get into the back end. I can't get into anything. And my tech guys tell me it's dangerous for me to even try because they can get into other information that we have. So I kind of let it go. Now that I know it's on the Wayback Machine,
I will send you a link. I didn't even know about it until I was on somebody else's YouTube channel, and I said all my interviews were gone, and they're like, have you ever heard of Wayback Machine? I'm like, no, I've been on the internet for 25 years and I've never heard of it. But not all your work is there, but a lot of it is saved. You can go into a calendar and pick a day, and it goes into that day, and it's like, it's weird, man. You're seeing stuff from like 2010, 11, 12.
Wow.
Not everything's there, but a lot of it's there. I was able to copy and paste about 20 interviews into my documents on my computer so I could move some of them over to print.
That's
But
cool.
to show you, don't ever delete anything off your computer, because just because it's on YouTube or a website doesn't mean it's going to be there forever. But we didn't know. We were naive. We didn't know.
I had a computer crash that had everything on it, and I knew I should have backed it up, and I didn't.
You know,
and
it was a different time, but
Yeah.
it's all good that we're here now. Donnie and I are like from the same era. Like this
Yeah.
movie here, Summer Job, is 1989. That's the year I graduated from high school.
Me too.
So we're old.
Yeah.
But these movies are not going to ever get made again. They're just not. We're too in a politically correct era of these guys cannot be peeping on girls. They can't be, too sexual. And it's movies are escapism. And so I really wanted to focus, Donnie would talk about a lot of different films, but I kind of wanted to focus a little bit about on the Rhonda Shear USA Up All Night era, 80s
I think
cable.
I saw this on USA Up All Night.
I think I did too, but then just so people know, this movie was available on Tubi for the longest time. And then last week I went to watch it as a refresher because I hadn't seen it in over 30 years. And they freaking removed it. And that's streaming for you. That's why physical media is important. But this movie's not on Blu-ray, so you're not going to be able to buy this thing. I don't think it's ever going to come out on physical media because nobody wants to put out sex comedies on Blu-ray, which makes no sense to me.
Vinegar has been putting it out a lot of sex comedies and sex films, so you never know. It depends on whether the thing about this one that makes it hard to me, I could be wrong, is I own the soundtrack on vinyl, and there's some pretty probably difficult to license music in the movie that would probably make it difficult for anyone wanting to release it on Blu-ray and have to pay for those songs. That would be my guess, that this is a low budget movie and the soundtrack's probably worth more than the movie is.
Yeah, I want to say I saw it on USA Up All Night, but didn't USA edit it for nudity?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Okay,
definitely. So then I must have saw it just on regular cable, because when you sent me the file and I rewatched it on Monday, I remember the nudity, and I'm like, well, USA Up All Night edited that, so I must have saw it on cable. So the early 90s for me, so I'm in my early 20s, and I'm a big old horn dog. So what I did was and my VCR was on top of my TV, and I kept a blank tape in there. So anytime I was perusing around cable and I saw nudity, I hit record on all these different movies. So I had like a VHS tape, like a compilation of just great nudity from the 80s and 90s. And it was kind of like I was doing Mr. Skin before Mr. Skin, kind of like just fast forward to the good parts. And that's what I did. And this movie, it's not overly raunchy. It's not like, it doesn't have like Bush. It doesn't have like, it's not Porky's, it's not that, but it's a nice breezy 90-minute movie that hits on all the fun parts. It plays a little bit like Revenge of the Nerds, where the nerds actually seem to have more game than the jocks and the pretty boys. What are your initial thoughts of this film?
I mean, I have a soft spot for this one. My wife and I are constantly watching these summer sex comedies, is what we call them, because there's a slew of them, and this is one of my favorites just because it's super indie, and I don't know, it isn't as a lot of the early sex comedies were pretty hateful, and they had a lot of mean stuff in them, even though they had lots of boobs, right? This one's just fun, and the girls are just as sexist as the guys, which kind of sets it apart. Usually it's the guys being misogynistic and pushing themselves on the girls, and they have that in here, but the girls do it just as much, if not more, in Summer Job. So it kind of, I don't know, it was unique for the time to me, because it showed a different side of that summer sex comedy.
And what I think is important is it was shot in Miami, Florida. And it's like they didn't need, because it's always hopping like 365 days a year, it's always sunny, it's always hot. They didn't really need background people because they just shot there, and the background people were the people going to the beach and riding surfboards and stuff. So I think that authenticity and the fact it's on film, I'm not going to be a hater on digital, but film, that era, you watch it and it just, from the opening credits, it put me in a good mood. It just,
there's a
it just
feeling.
felt like, even the songs, I don't recognize any of the songs, but they were probably made for the movie, but they just seem to hit the right note. And that was the era of rock was still big in the 80s, leading, even hair bands to the late 80s. So you don't hear much rock in soundtracks on movies like you used to. I mean, you do in the trailers, but not so much in the films. You hear more rap now than you do rock.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. Times have changed, and they had the whole AOR genre that was, that sound. I call it soundtrack music. It just sounded like it belonged in a soundtrack. Their soundtrack's phenomenal. I tracked a copy down on Discogs, and my wife and I spin that record regularly. It's good. I like it as much as I like the movie, but the movie just it's fun. It's never angry, or it never takes itself too seriously. There's never any stakes either. A lot of these movies were trying to establish these stakes. There'd be a game or something. Oh, we're going to lose the resort if we don't do this. Or this person's going to do this if we don't do this. Or this person has to lose their father's land. There's no stakes in this movie. They're literally just freaking working at a resort.
Right, because it's basically a bunch of co-eds. They're either in college or about to start college, and they're just trying to, like, they don't know what they're going to do with their lives, even though they kind of have their degree picked out. And, the guys are trying to get the girls, but the girls are having fun with it because the one nerdy guy, I believe his name is Herman.
Yes.
He's kind of delivering their luggage. And not that they should have to close their window, but they kind of like purposely dance, no curtains drawn, kind of like in their lingerie and having fun. And I just like the fact that he seems to have the most game.
Yeah,
didn't anybody in the movie.
Yeah, didn't they pull him in with all their clothes
and they take
off?
his underwear down. It's like they were just having fun. Like you're saying, that could be looked at as like sexual harassment or whatever. But hey, we're human beings. Guys can flirt with girls. Girls can flirt with guys. I just think this simplicity is missing in films of all genres. But, especially stuff like this, it just works so well.
It was a time. It's definitely of its time. It's from the 90s and late 80s when, I mean, you really weren't. No one was worried about being canceled. The internet didn't exist. Well, it existed, but not in the way that it does today. We didn't have like social media. Nobody filmed everything they were doing. It was a different and wonderful time that had. Movies were amazing. I mean, I liked going out, but I also liked staying home and watching, USA Up All Night or whatever was on Cinemax or Showtime, and these were the movies that were playing.
Now with this cast, I was trying to pay attention closely. Did you recognize any of these actors?
Just the lead girl, and I
had to bring her name up because her name is Sherry Rose, and I pulled her up on IMDb, and the movies that she did make a lot of sense. Like there's a movie called Lauderdale, as in Fort Lauderdale, which actually has some of the same cast as Summer Job, and I want to know what the connection is. Like, were they made back to back in Florida? Like, what was the connective piece? No Retreat, No Surrender 3. She's on some Married with Children, Martial Law 2, a lot of erotic 90s stuff, Body Waves, Double Threat. So she definitely wasn't one shy to, show off her body. And I did find her on social media too. So she's still been working up until like recently. So she's kept busy. Definitely not a name brand like somebody I remember, but now that I look at her resume, she definitely kept busy, especially in the 90s.
It
No, yeah. So I think that's a good thing. I mean, I like seeing people I recognize, but I also like kind of going into a film like this and kind of wondering what made them.
it looks like SVS and Alpha, the production company, shared a lot of the same producers. So
That would explain Summer Job and Lauderdale were both put out in '89 and both
yeah,
shot in Florida. And
yeah.
some of the same people ended up in both films. So if somebody ever put it on Blu-ray, if
I mean,
that could be a
that
nice
was
double feature.
a smart thing back then. A lot of the companies during the early '90s would do that. I remember when Sorority Babes and the Slime Ball Bolorama, they made that a Nightmare Sisters, like right at the same time, same cast, same area, just plopped them together, made two movies, and it would make sense to do a very similar thing. You got the beach, you've cleared permits, you've got these actors, just knock out as much as you can, you know, as fast as you can.
And what I also enjoyed is how they're in a resort and they're working. There's that one heavyset kind of perverted guy that's
Yes.
always trying to flirt with the girls,
Yeah.
but they kind of put him in his place. And I like that what you mentioned, it's an equal
Yep.
opportunity. And like the redhead girl, to get bigger tips, she purposely will drop stuff on the ground and bend over, and she ends up giving one guy a heart attack. But I didn't even, as I was watching it, not till you brought it up, I realized, yeah, the girls are just as bad as the guys in this film.
Oh
Which
yeah,
is nice,
100%.
which is a good thing, because they let's be honest, girls hold all the power in relationships and everything. You don't see guys with OnlyFans because we wouldn't make no money, but girls can do it. They hold the power. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different time, and that this movie was the first one I can think of, besides maybe Where the Boys Are, and there was another one called The Beach Girls. But those are the only three that I can think of from that time where the girls were just as sexually like aggressive as the guys were. I mean, in this one, I can't remember her name, but the one that decides to change her major and go to school with the guy from Texas. She's
Yeah.
going like doing everything she can to get him to notice her. It's and you don't usually see that in these types of movies.
And the girls get a little bit, we get more nudity in these films than the girls, but the girls get a little bit of booty in here. Not the best looking dude showing it, but they get something, and it's like it's a little bit for everybody,
Yeah, and it's really well. I mean, it's beautiful. The film looks good. It looks better than a lot of the the right shortly after this, the shot on video moments started happening, and they started making all those
like
those VHS
like
bad.
Richard Gabby did like some shot on videos. I think Assault of the Party Nerds 1 and 2, which, by the way, I will get into this. Like, you and I basically came up with late night classics. And for people that don't know, it's when Donnie brought me on to Killer Film, he sent me off to press screenings and press junkets. Some of it wasn't, we weren't a genre specific website per se. We even covered dramas. We were just happy to get invited. But I told him I was wanting to focus on horror, exploitation, sex comedies from the 80s and 90s. He and I came up with late night classics. My friend Daniel Del Pozo, he owns Culture Shock Releasing, which is kind of in a tailspin right now. I don't know what's going on. We kind of had a falling out. We don't really speak. But I kind of told him, he goes, hey, man, I got Virgin High and Hot Under the Collar on Blu-ray. I was like, well, why don't you just use the name Late Night Classics and make it your sex comedy line? Nobody's doing it. You could corner that market. That thing, because at the time he was with Vinegar Syndrome with OCN Distribution, that thing sold like 2,000 copies in like 10 days. The slipcovers were gone.
Did he call it Late Night Classics?
He did. He called it Late Night Classics Volume 1, which was, Hot Under the Collar and Virgin High. Part 2 is done. It's Assault of the Party Nerds 1 and 2, because all those are Richard Gabby films, so he was able to get the rights. I've seen the slipcover art for them. He left OCN for whatever reason. He signed up with TerraVision as a partner label. He's only put out one film, but volume 2 is kind of done. I don't know what's keeping it from coming out, but I would totally buy it. I think that people love that. When that title got released, people were so excited. And I looked at Daniel. I said, you know what? I told you. People want these films. Vinegar Syndrome, the guy that owns them, one of the owners is Joe Rubin. He's more of the porn fan. He loves doing the adult titles. He's not a big sex comedy fan. I mean, they've done a few, but that's not really their thing. Maybe when they get to a point where they run out of horror films, they'll jump on the erotic thriller sex comedy line. I think that's eventually going to happen, probably in the next 5 years. But Late Night Classics is still out there with Culture Shock, but I couldn't tell you what's going on over there.
I like that Vinegar's starting to diversify too, though, with all the sister labels. Like they're also putting out some good films from the era that were a little better than some of the stuff they put out. Like they just put out Little Darlings and Cloak and Dagger, which were two that that I really liked. So they're doing some cool stuff.
What is your favorite boutique label? If you had to pick one.
I probably buy the most from Vinegar Syndrome.
We're in the same boat because of the era. That's the 80s and 90s direct-to-video, small theatrical release. What do you think about fanboys or fangirls who kind of like holding the gate with like, well, they were known for adult films and exploitation, and why are they releasing dramas or comedies or action? Don't you think that's like ignorant to say stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, anyone that's taking the care that Vinegar Syndrome is in putting out these titles and the love they're putting into them. I mean, we bought New York Ninja, which is look, let's be real, it's not a great movie, right? It's a fun movie. It's not a great movie, but the love these guys put into putting this film back together that no one had ever seen, putting a soundtrack on it, hiring the people to do the behind the scenes, and scanning this thing to be the most beautiful piece it could be, hiring artists to do new artwork. Nobody's out there doing that. Them and Severin are probably the only two that are out there putting the kind of work they are in their releases. And not even Arrow is putting the kind of work.
Or even Criterion, which they do a lot of restorations, but they're not going back to a movie that was incomplete and putting it together.
Yeah, no, I mean, these guys are doing work like they're giving us the good stuff. And for years, I was telling my wife about Little Darlings. I was like, there's this movie I saw when I was a kid, and I had a crush on Christy McNichol, and I went to the theater, and it was the first time I'd seen a sex comedy from the point of view of the girls. And she was like, they don't make sex comedies from the point of view of the girl. And I was like, this one is 100% from the point of view of the girls. And you couldn't get it anywhere. It wasn't for rent. It wasn't on Amazon. And somehow the people at Vinegar were able to make the most beautiful box for this movie with all the special features and a scan that's unreal. Nobody's out there doing that kind of stuff. I have a lot of respect for Vinegar and for Severin. Severin does some pretty great stuff too.
And with Vinegar Syndrome, what people need to realize is we're paying for all that. They just sent out an email. You probably got it too. They're opening this huge warehouse. They cannot store the amount of movies because they don't just, for the most part, Vinegar Syndrome likes to buy their rights outright, meaning they own it forever. So they put these movies so they don't disintegrate and get Vinegar Syndrome. They store them in like lockers that are like a certain temperature to keep them. So they need a warehouse. And I saw some people like scoffing at that. I'm like, dude, we paid for that warehouse.
Yep.
We paid for this, for a New York Ninja to happen, to get put back together, the pieces. So even if you don't like Little Darlings, but that movie sells, it pays for the movie that you do want down the line.
Yep.
It's really simple formula. And they're rolling. I don't have, because look, maybe that means they can give their employees a raise. Maybe that means they can give them benefits. We don't know. Or they can hire more people for the warehouse. So it's a win-win if you're a movie fan. And because we're of an older generation, we recall not being able to rent these movies, let alone buy them.
Oh yeah,
That's the thing.
it was tough.
Yeah, Laser just didn't have the biggest selection. VHS, no offense to VHS fans out there, was pure garbage. It's full screen, it's pan and scan, it's censored, especially horror films was censored and cut, and there was no extra features unless you count a trailer at the beginning of the VHS tape. DVD was this huge leap forward, but now with Blu-ray and 4K, I tell people this and they could disagree all day. This is the golden age of physical media. And we've been living in it for about 15 years since Screen Factory kind of kicked down the door in like 2010.
Yeah, Scream Factory's still doing some really good stuff as well, but they aren't putting the work into it that Vinegar and Severin are. I mean, Vinegar will pick up a movie that, like, I got Daryl, for instance, and they will put money into someone going and filming extra behind the scenes interviews and things that didn't exist before. That's never really been a thing with a DVD company. They just, what can we track down to go with it? Cool, just slap that on there. Oh, they got some stills, but these guys are like going out and creating new content. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, I think the two people that left, I don't know the details of the fallout with Cliff McMillan and Jeff, forgot his last name. There's two guys that were like you and I if we got into a boutique label, and they were the one that like went after the titles that everybody wanted. They both ended up quitting. I think Cliff went to Arrow. I think Jeff Nelson became like a singer or something. Things started to go in the toilet. Like, look, if you love 4K, that's fine. I'm not against it. If you are, I don't like 4K. It's not that big of a deal. I don't go out of my way to buy 4K. I usually got my subscription with Vinegar Syndrome. If there's a Blu-ray 4K combo, which a lot of them are, then I have the 4K, but I've never gone out of my way to buy it. But Scream Factory really started just re-releasing the same movies on the same form, Blu-ray, DVD, 4K, of generally sequels or franchise films or really popular A-list studio films. That doesn't excite me. I'm at the point in my life where I get worked up over like the movies that I've never seen or heard of, which Vinegar Syndrome releases them on a monthly basis. And I'm more excited to see something I've never seen or heard of than Child's Play, Friday the 13th. I mean, yes, I grew up with that.
Are movies that I love that I could never get my hands on. Like there are a lot of those that Vinegar Syndrome's actually put out. And I'm not a huge 4K nut either. Some movies look great. Look, Suspiria's 4K release looked unbelievable. I bought Jaws on 4K and the grain was so bad that it distracted me, because it sometimes you don't need to see the rubber on the shark. It's okay for it to just be 4K. Kai said Mondo Macabro. I have a bunch of Mondo
Macabro, I feel get underappreciated. A lot of the movies they release would be a loss to time. More so even Vinegar Syndrome nowadays. I think I'm not the biggest Mondo fan.
I have a few.
Some of them are like it's Euro horror, which I do like, but some of it's, I'm not a big, what's the guy's name? Like Gene Roland, and I'm not big on those guys. I'm more like Argento Fulci.
I mean, I like Roland made all the lesbian vampire movies.
And that's cool. And like kind of like Jess Franco, which I've come around to him, but Mondo is like, I don't own a lot of them. It's an acquired taste, a lot of it. I think they are doing good. I think Cauldron, which kind of feels like Severin or Mondo Macabro, is good. I wish they wouldn't take pre-orders 6 months, 8 months in advance and then keep. There's a box set that Malcolm is the guy that's commenting, and I ordered called Houses of Doom. It's 4 films. They're TV movies, 2 from Fulci and 2 from Umberto Lenzi, I want to say it is. And it's called Houses of Doom. They're all these Italian late 80s TV movies, and they keep pushing the box set back. I wish that people would just kind of hold back ordering stuff unless you got your shit together in your warehouse and you're ready to deliver it. TerrorVision is another one. I'm kind of like, they're all over the place with their announcements and they're ordering, and the
Well, a
guy
lot of
brought
them just take so long. Like the Trick or Treat one. I'm so ready for this damn thing to come out, and it just seems like it's never going to happen. Like
well,
it,
what happened when so Trick or Treat from '86. I know because you're the heavy metal horror guy. That's definitely one of your probably top 5 ever.
yeah,
They
it's
did a
it's
they did a
perfect.
YouTube video right before Halloween last year, and they were talking about we're not going to have it ready for Halloween because it's like a month away, but we'll
Yeah,
probably do it early 2024. I think they're planning on doing it October this year.
yeah, I don't think so.
Makes sense. I know it's Michael Felsher's Red Shirt Pictures is kind of his release, but underneath the Synapse Films umbrella, I think you've seen the artwork, right? The 3 different
Yeah,
boxes. It's going to be
it looks
loaded.
beautiful.
It's going to. I heard the joke is it's going to be $66.60, which I don't know. I will pay it because I love the film, and it's never really been released properly. There was a shitty DVD that got put out, but it really doesn't count. How do you feel about paying $60, $70 for one film, regardless of the extras or 4K?
I think that's a lot. I mean, even Vinegar's best releases are only like 40. I think $66 is a lot. Unfortunately, it's a film that is near and dear to my heart, so I will probably buy it. And they know that the people that are going to buy this are us, the older people who have, day jobs and can drop $66 on a Blu-ray if we love it enough. But I think it's too high. I think that's a ridiculous price.
But I will say Severin does it, and I know they're going to do this with Trick or Treat. The problem is I don't have patience. I know if we wait 6 months, there's going to be a streamlined version without the bulky box that will probably be 30, 40, which is more realistic. But if it's October 1st and they put out Trick or Treat, there's no way you're not going to drop $70 on that film because
No,
you're going to
I'm
want to watch it for Halloween. When's the last time you've actually seen it? And you know you're getting it in 4K. And Don May Jr. at Synapse, who also did Suspiria, he doesn't fuck around with picture quality. He'll take forever to get it right. So you know it's going to look
no,
perfect.
it's gonna look good. I mean, I'm gonna drop whatever they ask. It's the same with, and I'm gonna get it right away because you've got
I'm not buying you shit.
like there's I'm the same with like I buy a lot of waxwork. I don't know if you know what waxwork records are.
Vinyl.
Yeah. But the problem that's happening with them, and I love them, they're a New Orleans based company. They make their product is perfect. Um, if you don't buy it right away, these asshats buy a shit ton of them, then they sell out, and then now you have to pay $300 for it if you want it. And I'm not doing that. So it's super aggravating. So if it's something that I kind of want, I end up buying a copy right away because I know that 2 weeks from there I'll have to pay $200 if I really want it.
And the problem is because we're older and we have jobs and we work hours, they'll drop it like you'll know it's going to be 9 a.m. on the first of the month. But guess what? The flippers are buying multiple copies so they can go on eBay and make a nice profit. And then guys like us, if we're at work and we're on our phone, which is a pain in the ass to try to do, we might miss out. It happens like I know with Vinegar Syndrome, they just signed Shutter. They're one of the new partner labels, and all their slipcovers are 1,000 copies. So the last couple movies they put out, the Blu-rays have sold out, at least the slipcovers, and they always look really good, like in 4 hours. So, and you don't know on the first of the month what's going to drop. So I know September 1st, 19 partner label titles. It's safe to say one of those is going to be Shutter Blu-ray, but I don't know which one. So I'm going to have to set my alarm to wake up. I think it's a Sunday, because if I sleep in, then I snooze, I lose. And it's unfortunate, but FOMO is real. They've created it. If they made 2,500 slip covers, you could probably sleep in and be fine. But 1,000 between the resellers and just the normal fans, it doesn't last.
No, it's they're gone in an instant. It's and it's been happening like to me, especially with vinyl. vinegar tends to not sell out quite as fast. But it's rough.
So
I've been wanting to see Elevator Game, actually.
I will throw a few out there. Elevator Game is one I haven't seen, but I like Rebecca McKendry used to write for Fangoria. Actually, you guys have a lot in common. I don't know what school it is up in LA, but she's a teacher.
Yeah, that's I listen to her podcast, Colors of the Dark.
And actually, I think they should rename. They actually have. You guys are actually called educators. I think that's a better word than teachers. I actually prefer educators, but she's really bright. She also directed a movie called Glorious, but it did get a Blu-ray.
I got it.
Through RLJE, but the slip's not very good. So I think just because it got put out on Blu-ray doesn't mean it's not going to get put out again on Blu-ray via OCN with a different slip cover that's a lot better. So I expect Elevator Game, Glorious. There's a movie called Downrange, which is brutal, which is from Ryuya Kitamura, a Japanese director. It's basically about an active shooter out in the middle of the road that fucking is taking out this group of friends. There's no rhyme. There's no reason. But because we live in the United States and that's so common, it's very hard to watch, but it's a very well done film. There's another one called Kandisha, Kandisha. It's from the directors of Inside. It's kind of like their take on Candyman. So anyways, long story short, there's a lot of good stuff coming through Shudder. I know you're a fan of the director whose movie just sold out. The one that just came out through Vinegar Syndrome, the slipcover is already sold out. The filmmaker's name, I will find out for you right now. Oh, A Wounded Fawn.
Oh, Travis. Yeah, I know Travis.
Travis
I bought that. I pre-ordered it because
you had to do it really quick. The slipcover is gone, but you got one.
Yeah, I ordered it really fast, like when it was a pre-order, because the minute he posted it on his Instagram, I jumped because I like Travis. He's always been good to me. If I need something, he's genuinely a horror fan, not just a filmmaker. He's a fan. He's a good guy. So I'll support all of his work. And that movie is so cool. Shot on 35 millimeter. It's very unique and artsy, but still, it's just a really cool movie. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out.
I actually did see it on Shudder. The brief time I had Shudder, I watched it. But you said, so you're a big vinyl guy. You own the vinyl for Summer Job?
I do. Yes.
How many people, is that through Waxwork or somebody else?
No, I tracked down on Discogs a copy from the 90s. Like, so they put out a vinyl release when they released the movie. They didn't do a lot. I think they did like maybe 2,000 or 3,000 copies, and I was able to find a store on Discogs that had it for like $10, and I bought a copy, and it's in great condition.
I mean, I felt it's funny because Summer Job was on Tubi, and I waited to watch it, and it was a very hopeless feeling going there, and it was removed. And I get it, streaming's not forever.
Yeah,
I don't know how long they hold the rights to. I went to YouTube hoping somebody uploaded it. It wasn't available. I was like, how am I going to do a retrospective with Donnie based off of foggy 35-year-old memories of the last time I saw it? Luckily, you had it. I was able to watch it. I hate watching movies on my phone, but I knew I needed to watch it on my break at lunch at work and kind of catch up. And I hate watching movies that way, but it was the only way. Just busy work week. I just kind of felt
it's not a good copy. I ripped it from my VHS, so it's not. It's a VHS rip. It's not a great.
No, but it was totally looked fine. And even though I kind of went off on VHS earlier, what I will say is VHS is still relevant because there's thousands of movies that will never come to DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. I don't care how quickly these boutique labels are putting them out. They're not going to happen.
Yeah,
so
I've been having that movie on VHS since, good God, I probably bought it in the mid-90s at I want to say it. I can't remember the name of it. There was a video store that was in every freaking shopping mall.
Oh, you're talking about FYE or one of those kind of places, right?
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
it was one of those, and I picked it up. It was in like a bargain bin, and so I've been having it for years on VHS. So and hoping one day we'd get a DVD or a Blu-ray of it, but I haven't seen it.
Oh, was it Second Spin?
No, it was. I can't remember the name of the place. It was they had
Don't
like
tell me it was
toys.
like Music Plus or
It
the
was just
warehouse.
movies. There was no music. It was like movies and toys, and
But they had it.
and posters, and they had a VHS of it. They just recently, not long ago, went out of business, but I can't remember the name of the company.
So let me ask you this. You've been doing interviews forever. You've been journalist, filmmaker. I know the one person you would love to interview. What would it take to get you, me, Kevin Smith to do a video together?
Probably
Because you had an opportunity to interview him once. I think it fell through, but I know he's not easy to get a hold of.
Yeah.
But how nice would it be able to get him to either talk about his new film, which I'm sure that's what he'd be open to.
Yeah, Suncoast. My wife just commented. It is Suncoast Video.
Wait,
yes.
The only place I didn't mention was the place I worked at for 4 years, from 1998 to 2002. I was a manager at Suncoast Video, also known as Suncoast Motion Picture Company, which was the best job I ever had. It didn't pay well, but it wasn't renting movies. It was selling films. So, and also we had a very attractive crew. My store manager made a point to, of all the jobs I had, that was the closest to summer job would be that job, because the girls were very cute, but they were also good employees. But Aaron said, you're welcome. I can't believe I didn't mention Suncoast when I fucking worked there.
I couldn't think of the name, but it was, I mean,
that was dude, when I worked there, it was t-shirts, toys. Check this out. I remember when I first started, we had a VHS display of Lost in Space from '98. And it had a voice activated thing that every time somebody walked in and out of the store, it said, "Danger, Will Robinson, danger." I wanted to kick the fucking shit out of that display after about 8 hours of people walking in, out, because that was the peak of really home video rental and sale through places. You know, obviously we do it online now, but that was
I'd go there nonstop.
Look, my job I have now pays me 3 times as much. I got great benefits, weekends off, paid holidays. Suncoast is the only job I still dream about a couple times a year. I dream I'm still working there. And that's a sign that I was really happy when I was there. It just was because I was around my people. It wasn't work. It was like people would come in and you would just bullshit and talk. And I do feel for the younger generation that they're never going to recapture that. I know there's a lot of ideals out there that it'll come back. It's never coming back. I will die on that hill, not because I want it to never come back, but technologically wise, we're so far removed with streaming, with ordering online.
I think we'll see boutiques. I think so, like Waxwork, it's mainly online business, but they have little stores. They have a small storefronts, and I think we'll see boutique storefronts for like, because there's VHS stores opening up again in certain cities that are catering to these people. Like we have a friend named Jarrett, shout out, who he collects VHS tapes, and I mean he's serious about them. Like, and there are a lot of people out there like that, and I think we'll see boutique areas. Like I could see a Vinegar Syndrome store in the right market, maybe in Los Angeles or New Orleans, somewhere in the right market. One of those stores could kill for them. I just don't think it's going to be as widespread as Blockbuster, you know?
Right, yeah. When I say it, I always refer to it's never going to be Hollywood Video, Blockbuster Video. That's never, you know, when I worked in Long Beach, California at Blockbuster, we had like 10 locations, and it's a big city, but we basically drove the Mod Pod Video out of business. And I kind of find it ironic that Blog chance to buy Netflix, they passed. Netflix put them out of business. But no, you're right. I mean, there's a Vinegar Syndrome has the archive in what is it, Connecticut or something? They have brick and mortar stores that are powered by who they are, and so there's always going to be places like that. There's always going to be those specialty stores, but not like the days where you see people talk about, oh, Friday nights, my family, we get in our car and go buy Coke and popcorn and rent 3 movies and come home. That's never going to happen. There's always going to be video stores. Vinyl is proof, because I heard vinyl was dead with CDs, with downloading and with iTunes, and here vinyl might be as big now as it was back in the 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah, it's doing really well now. And
Orbit DVD. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I just feel like I grew up in doing it, and I worked at video stores for more than a decade. And
yeah, I didn't work that long, but I worked at home video in my small town, and it was a mom and pop, and I think we lasted like 6 months after Blockbuster opened. It wasn't even a year. They shut us.
What I think makes it tough too with video stores is now we're so much about instant gratification. I mean, you can literally order something. I'm not even talking Amazon, and you can have it 3 days later, 5 days later, a week later on your doorstep. And as an adult, that's kind of convenience.
It is,
because we have our lives, and if you have children, I only have one, and that's enough. You have 2, 3, 4, your life is hectic and crazy. So I'm not going to be one of those Gen Xers who's like, oh, I wish it, I love the way things were in the 80s and 90s, and a lot of it wasn't good either. There's a balance to what's going on now. When I tell people, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 53, and they're like, oh, I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't change my age for a thing. I grew up with 70s movies, TV shows, music, 80s. I was a 70s child, an 80s teenager. I graduated in 89. I could talk about movies like Summer Job when they were first released. Maybe one day somebody will put it out on Blu-ray. But the point is, I would never change my age for a thing. I think we're spoiled with what we grew up with. And the ironic thing is, it's not just Gen X. If you look at these guys that are collectors now, and these girls, by the way, girls are powering physical media as much as guys.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. They're 15, 20, 25, 30 years old. A lot younger than us, right? They're millennials, they're Gen Z. They love the Monster Squad and Night of the Creeps and all these movies we grew up with just as much as we did. So it goes to show you the staying power of that era we grew up in. And all these movies we're picking up from boutique labels are pretty much, for the most part, 70s to 90s, that 30-year gap that just seems to be kind of unstoppable, really.
Yeah, and my wife's the same. She probably buys more Blu-ray content than I do, and I think most of the stuff she buys is from our era, and I think, I mean, right now we're entering a time though where they're starting to make, over the last few years, they've been starting to make some good stuff again. I was getting kind of disappointed. Everything was super, like, not that Deadpool's not good. I like Deadpool, but super Marvelized, right? And super like cookie cutter. This is what you're going to get. And lately we've been getting some really good movies out there. Some really good stuff that's, making it worth going to movies again.
Are you talking about stuff like Long Legs, Maxine, or just things in general?
Yeah, well, Maxine I like. I didn't like Long Legs.
I didn't see it yet, but I kind of, when people overhype something, I kind of have to step back and watch it on my own terms. So I'll wait till it streams somewhere, and then make my own decision. When people overhype it, like a lot of people love First Omen, I thought it was a piece of crap, but that's just my opinion. Because it was kind of like the Thing prequel, where they were kind of rewriting some of the rules. Like, I just remember, in the original Omen, the Antichrist is the son of a jackal. And then all of a sudden you're changing what you wrote down, like, so I just kind of have a problem with movies that want to go rewrite history and redo things and kind of, crowbar things in there that don't belong. But you're right. There's great stuff out there. People just need to go support it. That doesn't make money. We're going to continue to get, and I don't have a problem with superhero movies, but 2023, I think we had 8 or 9. I was so over it, dude.
Yeah, no,
every 2 months we got a fucking film. And I was like, I can't. And let's be honest, the CGI in those films has gotten worse to the point it looks like CGI diarrhea. It's just like all over the screen. I'm like, dude, it should be there, a tool to help you tell the story. It shouldn't be the story.
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm not a big 3D fan in general, or that digital graphics type person. I'm not a big fan. Give me practical all day if you can. But there's been some good. I thought Maxine was good. I liked it a lot. Twisters was great.
I liked Abigail. It was a great.
Abigail was a lot of fun. It was a blast. It was.
And I knew I was going to like it because I've said this before. I'm a very director-driven fan, and I knew those guys from Scream 5 and 6, which, by the way, I like more than the original films. I know I'm in the minority. I liked Ready or Not was great.
Oh, I loved Ready or Not as well.
And Abigail. I mean, these guys make hard R-rated films, and they got studios like a Universal giving them money to make a bloodbath, an entertaining one. I dug Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. I did not understand some of the hate. It's my second favorite Ghostbusters behind the original. I thought Afterlife kind of was over nostalgic to the point of
I liked Afterlife too, though. But I didn't need Bill Murray and them in the movie. Like, it's not necessary for me to move forward. Twisters proves you don't need the original cast to make a movie that's in the vein of the original. I also really liked. You mentioned Scream. Goddamn it, my brain just went. Trying to think.
Scream 5, 6. You're talking about the Ready or Not or Abigail? Something that came out this year. It's been a really good year for horror films. I mean,
really good. Like
theatrical, small releases. I know that I believe Neon put out Longlegs, and I think it crossed 100 million. I don't know if it's I think it's worldwide. Horror films like that don't make 100 million. I mean, what a horror film.
I loved Deadstream. Absolutely.
Okay, that's one I haven't seen. I know that was the Shudder original. I could see that Blu-ray.
I loved it so much. My wife and I made a film inspired by it. Like we liked it that much. It was impressive.
Yeah, before I forget, can you talk about the film that you're making now? I know there's been photos on internet, on your social media. What's the film called? What's it about? When can we see it?
It's called Arson. My wife directed it. We wrote it together. I produced it. It's about an aging boy band, kind of like NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, that decide to sell their soul to the devil for fame and fortune. And of course, there's a catch. So they wake up the next morning looking like rotting zombies, and they are now a death metal band. And, the fans think the zombie makeup's like the catch, kind of like the band Ghost or something.
Right.
But they're really zombies. And if they want to look human, they have to eat their fans after the shows.
So your wife directed it. Tell everybody your wife's name. Who's the director of this film?
Erin Broussard, my wife, Erin.
And what did you do? Because I know you've been on the set, so obviously you did some stuff too.
I'm the producer, so I find the money to make the movie. I put the crew together, and I do whatever the hell we need on set. Like if I have to hold the camera, I hold the camera. If I have to haul out dolly track, I'll haul out dolly track. I'll do whatever needs to be done.
Is this something we're going to see through streaming, through like direct-to-video film, like on Blu-ray or something?
What we've been doing, so we used to make a lot of features for other people, and my wife and I would produce them for other people, and there's not enough money in movies nowadays for us to keep doing that, so we decided to kind of pivot and start focusing on our own content. Unfortunately, rich people don't like to give money to directors that haven't made features before. Even though we produced features, Aaron hadn't directed a feature. So we've been doing shorts in the interim. We did one called Spooky Crew that's out right now in festivals. It's doing really, really, really well. And Arson's another short that we're going to put out probably through festivals. And when it's done with festivals, what we've been doing on our website, mallowentertainment.com, we've been putting the stuff on we have a page called Originals. So we've been putting the short content and some feature content up on that website for free for people to watch when it's done with festivals. So, but of course, if you want to watch, I'll send you links.
No, that's cool. So what's the website again so people know?
Mallowentertainment.com. That's MALLOW.
Okay, so what about the web on social media? They can find you at Donny Broussard on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Donny Amar Broussard on Instagram. And it's Donny_Amar_Broussard. Mallow Entertainment on Instagram and on Facebook. Yeah.
What's the name of the film again? So people remember.
Arson.
How you spell that?
ARSON.
Okay, just arson, like fire, arson. Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back to Trick or Treat. That sounds like your Trick or Treat, your what's that one movie called? Deathgasm?
Yes, I think and Aaron was inspired. I had done a comic book when I was younger called Arson about a rock band of zombies. And I showed it to my wife and I was like, I'm going to write this short film. And I wrote an original draft of it. And she was like, man, it would be funnier if they weren't just a zombie rock band. What if they were like these goofy, like NSYNC guys that were way too old? So we rewrote the whole thing. And she's serious. She's almost more into the metal horror movies than I am. Like, like Rocktober Blood and all those movies.
Black Roses,
Black Roses, yeah. So this was like her wheelhouse. So it was overly ambitious though, because we had, one day we had 6 different prosthetic makeup applications and 2 major gore gags on top of 2 major camera gags. And then the next day we had, for the 3 other days, we had 4 makeup applications. We only have 1 makeup artist. His name is Caleb Lewis. He is amazing. He was on Sci-Fi Channel's Face Off.
I watched that show. It was a good show.
Yeah, he is amazing. Poor guy. I'm so sorry we made you do this stuff mostly by yourself. We had Isa Salazar also helped out. It was rough. It was very ambitious for what we were doing with very little money.
Sorry, Summer Job. We kind of like jumped all over the place, but this is the reason we came. We talked Summer Job, but we also talked about a lot of other stuff, playing catch up. But yeah, we'll do more of these.
I'd love to. It's fun. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. I never get tired of retrospectives. Whether they Synapse and Red Shirt Pictures puts out Trick or Treat in October, we could do Trick or Treat, but I have a feeling it's going to come out in a few more months. So we could do Trick or Treat. So. I know some of the other titles you threw out were My Best Friend is a Vampire.
Yeah, that one actually just got released.
I got the Best Drawn Video Blu-ray, and I think Up the Creek through Kino Lorber either got reissued or the Blu-ray is coming out. I saw that on.
Yeah,
on
I want to pick that up. Once Bitten's one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't think it has a crappy Blu-ray release that it's not crappy, but what they did was they released it with Love at First Bite, which I also
was the Screen Factory, which their licensing probably ran out, but so don't be surprised. I know Kino has been re-releasing a lot of Screen Factory stuff, like Screen Factory put Leviathan on Blu-ray. So Kino says, I'm going to do a 4K. So here I think I could see those getting put back out. Yeah.
That would be amazing because there's never really been a great Blu-ray release of it. I'd love a company like Vinegar to get in there and fix it because there's some pieces of the movie that don't look amazing. Kind of like Hard Rock Zombies. I had a VHS that looked like butt, and Vinegar's releases, it's beautiful. I mean, it looks amazing. It's kind of mind-boggling that they were able to go in and there were whole parts of the movie that I couldn't see.
Too dark and just
And now you can see the stuff. So it's pretty amazing what they can do.
So just as a reminder, Summer Job from 1989. It's a classic sex comedy. Unfortunately, it's no longer on Tubi unless they bring it back later on. So you're probably gonna have to track down a VHS if you want to watch it, or unfortunately go the torrent route, which I don't recommend. But if it's not available, you gotta do what you gotta do to see a film.
Usually it was at one point on YouTube, so somebody must have taken it down, which is a good sign because the only time they take down these 80s movies is if somebody's interested in releasing it. So that might be, yeah.
Or they have the rights and we just don't know about it.
Yeah.
So they're like, so it's kind of hush hush. Hey, we're putting this movie out. We can't have that copy up on YouTube, and we're trying to sell it and make money off it.
Yeah. So I'm crossing my fingers that we'll hear from Summer Job soon. It deserves it. It's fantastic.
So thank you everybody for watching, for coming on. We'll be back soon. Donnie's super busy, so I can't kind of see him all the time, but we'll try to figure it out because, yeah. So thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to be back on Monday. Malcolm's going to be with me. We're going to talk about kind of which connects to this issue, kind of a series I do called Where's the Blu-ray? Movies that have never made it to Blu-ray or got cool. Some shoddy, no extras, crop, like what was that? Cheesy Flicks. Do you remember that DVD company?
Oh, yeah.
Put out really bad copies. So we do this thing where we pick 5 movies each that we want on Blu-ray. And we're going to talk about some films. I won't say what they are, but that'll be up on Monday. So thank you everybody for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.